In this America, people can forgive a lot of things. But if you are a black woman, strong, and dare to speak the truth, sometimes they will do everything they can to silence you. That afternoon, the sun was blazing down on downtown Atlanta. From above, the glass office buildings reflected the harsh sunlight, a reminder that the southern summer was not pleasant. On I-75, a black FBI Ford Explorer drove silently through the traffic with agents inside. Lisa Monroe, 42 years old, a black woman, neatly curled hair, sharp eyes, and an FBI badge neatly placed on the dashboard. She had just finished a months-long assignment, a deep dive into a massive drug trafficking network with ties to local authorities. Lisa was tired, but also proud. As one of the few black female agents in the bureau, she knew she had to tread more carefully than anyone else. Every word, every action was scrutinized more closely. But she stood firm. As the clock on the dashboard read 2:42 p.m., Lisa thought about stopping by the local bakery to buy her mother's favorite strawberry shortcake. It had been a long time since they had dinner together, and she wanted to give her mother that, a break from the stressful days. But life in America doesn't always go according to plan, especially for people of color. As the black SUV slid through the intersection of North Avenue, an unusual flash appeared in the rearview mirror. Lisa squinted. A police car was following. Blue lights flashing, no siren, just a silent signal, but a pressure. She glanced down at the speedometer. 32 miles an hour, within the 35 limit. No reason to be stopped. But her instincts honed by years of working with crime scenes and witnesses, warned her that something was wrong. She turned on her signal and slowly pulled over. A white and blue police cruiser stopped behind her. A tall figure in sunglasses got out, his hand on his holster.
Lisa didn't move. She understood how things could turn dangerous in a matter of seconds. She rolled down her window and took out her FBI badge. "Hello, officer," she said, keeping her voice calm and professional. "This is Federal Agent Lisa Monroe. I'm on my way back to the office after a mission. Is something wrong?" The policeman did not return the greeting. He stood there, staring at her, his eyes cold behind his dark glasses. "Driver's license, vehicle registration." The voice was curt and dry. Lisa frowned slightly. She had seen cold officers before, but this kind was something she had heard about from victims, a somewhat hostile yet elusive attitude. She held out her papers. "Like I said, I'm an FBI agent. Here's my badge. This is an official vehicle." "Get out of the car," the officer, the name Daniels flashed across his badge, ordered. Lisa was stunned. "I beg your pardon? Can you tell me why I was asked to leave the car?" "Now," Daniels enunciated each word, "or I will drag you out." At this moment, passers-by started to look back. Some took out their phones. Some started filming. Lisa knew she had no choice. She opened the car door, her hands held high as per protocol. "I will comply, but I will report this." Daniels didn't bother to reply. As she stepped out, he suddenly grabbed her arm, spun her around, and twisted her hands behind her back. The handcuffs were tight. "You are obstructing an officer in the execution of his duty." Lisa stopped. Pain, shock, humiliation. "You're making a grave mistake," she said through gritted teeth. "I'm a federal agent." "Yeah, and I'm the president." Daniels laughed mockingly. The official car pulled off the curb, leaving the traffic behind in silence. Lisa sat in the back of the patrol car, her wrists aching from the tight cuffs. But what hurt the most wasn't the bones or the skin, it was her dignity that had been trampled. The suburban police station is located nearly 20 miles from the city center, where there was little public lighting and even less traffic.
Daniels ushered Lisa in through a side door, away from the reception area. She knew this pattern well. She had solved many cases involving abusive cops, and now she was in the same position as the victims she had protected. The cell was cold. The neon lights on the ceiling flickered teasingly. A young officer named Sean Mitchell entered, carrying a file. He looked at her for a moment, hesitated, then said softly, "I'm sorry, I didn't know it would turn out like this." Lisa looked at him, calm. "You know who I am." Mitchell nodded, but made no move. That's what hurt Lisa the most. People who see wrongdoing but remain silent out of fear. Daniels stepped in. "What are you waiting for, Mitchell? Get the information. We don't have all day." Mitchell bowed his head. "Yes, sir." Lisa kept her eyes fixed on Mitchell, not saying anything more. But deep down she knew, if there was any chance of escape from here, it would be the young man holding the pen with a trembling hand. About 3 hours later, as dusk fell, Lisa was quietly taken by Mitchell to the back of the police station. "You have to leave," Mitchell whispered. "I can't let him do this again." "Why?" she asked. "Because I've seen Daniels do terrible things to people who can't fight back. But you're FBI. If he takes you down, no one's safe." Lisa nodded. For the first time, she saw a glimmer of hope. They escaped from the station in an old civilian car. Lisa contacted Agent Jackson Lee, her former colleague in Florida, for help.
"You need to come get me. I'm being chased. A police officer arrested me without cause, and now he's abusing his power to cover up the evidence." Jackson's voice was stern. "You hold your position, I'll send someone." But the question is, will they make it in time? From here, the story only begins, because Daniels has discovered that Lisa is gone. He is coming, and this time, it is not just handcuffs. This time, it could be a gun. Mitchell drove the old civilian through the quiet night of the southern suburbs of Atlanta. The chill of a southern July seeped through the windows. Lisa sat in the passenger seat, her eyes fixed on the rearview mirror. No red lights following, no sirens. But she knew, for someone like Daniels, silence was the scariest thing. Mitchell gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. "We need a place to hide. I know an abandoned cabin in the woods that used to be my family's vacation home." Lisa nodded, remaining silent. She didn't know if she could trust Mitchell completely, but he was the only one who had opened the cell door for her. And now she didn't have much choice. "How long?" she asked, her eyes never leaving the rearview mirror. "About 15 miles more, if no one is following." Lisa nodded. "I called Jackson. He's sending someone, but I don't know how fast Daniels will act." Mitchell glanced at her. "Daniels? He's the kind of man who would burn down a forest if he saw a spark that threatened him."
Lisa looked straight out the window. "Then I must be water." They reached the cabin just before 10 p.m. The dim light from Mitchell's old flashlight filtered through the dense forest. The log cabin sat quietly in the middle of the woods, its sloping roof broken in one corner, its windows broken, and cobwebs hanging from frame to ceiling. But for Lisa, it was the perfect shelter. No cameras, no phones, no one to know. She walked in, clutching the gun tucked inside her jacket, the only weapon she had left after Daniels had taken her badge and phone. She had no body armor, no communicator, just her instincts and her training as a veteran agent. Mitchell carefully locked the door. "I'll guard the back door," he said. "You get some rest." Lisa nodded, but her mind was restless. She pulled a worn-out chair close to the window and sat down, her eyes fixed on the thick darkness outside. A small noise was heard at 11:12 p.m. Lisa jumped to her feet. Her instincts, honed over hundreds of raids, were tuned to any unusual sound. It wasn't wind. It wasn't a branch snapping. It was footsteps, someone moving through the dry leaves. She motioned for Mitchell to turn off the light. They huddled behind the door, breathing hard. A flashlight flashed through the window, quickly, then out. Someone was checking the cabin. Not a wild animal. A familiar voice rang out, like a recurring nightmare. "Do you think you can hide forever, Agent Monroe?" Daniels.
Lisa drew her gun, holding it low but ready. She motioned for Mitchell to retreat to the back of the cabin. If anything happened, he was to leave and alert Jackson's team. "Lisa," Mitchell whispered, "we have to run." "No," she replied, her voice even. "He can't win." A door opened. A flashlight swept across the room. Daniels walked in, alone. Baton in hand, pistol at hip, same sneer, same look as if he held the law in his hands. "Well," he said, "the FBI isn't what it used to be. They can't even face it now. They hide in the woods." Lisa stepped out of the dark corner, pointing her gun at him. "Don't come any closer, Brent." He smirked. "You don't dare shoot. Don't test me." Daniel smiled, holding his hands out as if in mockery. "I'm not here to kill you. I just want to talk. You lost your right to speak the moment you handcuffed me for no reason and took me to a police station like a prisoner." "You don't understand, Lisa," he said, taking a step back. "You get involved in things you shouldn't. You investigate people you shouldn't." "Who are you talking about? The mayor? The dirty money that flows into your office every month?" Daniel's face fell. "I don't need to hear this," he snapped. "We can do this easily. You go back, I delete the report. You stay quiet, and it'll all go away." Lisa smiled faintly.
What I keep is not silence, it is evidence, and the truth. Daniels charged angrily. Lisa fired a warning shot into the ground. He stopped. "Get out of here, now!" Daniels stepped back, but didn't take his eyes off her. "You'll regret this." Then he turned and disappeared into the darkness. An hour later, Jackson called back. "We're coming, but we need you to stay out of sight. If he comes back—" "He came back," Lisa said, "and I sent him away, but I don't know for how long. Hold your position. Support will arrive before dawn." Lisa hung up. The night was not over, but she knew she was not just a victim now. She is the one who takes the initiative. 4 a.m. Sirens blared in the distance. Headlights cut through the thick fog of the forest. A black SUV and 2 FBI cruisers pulled up to the cabin. Jackson was the first to step out, wearing body armor, his eyes worried. "Lisa?" he called out. "I'm here." She stepped out, hands raised high, keeping the gun lowered to avoid any misunderstanding. Mitchell followed her. "He's here. Officer Daniels. He came in last night. We need a full statement, and, Lisa, I need you to get to safety, now, headquarters." Lisa nodded. Finally, she had someone on her side. But she knew the hardest part was still ahead. Justice doesn't come by magic. It takes evidence. It takes courage. And sometimes, it takes someone who is willing to be turned away by the system.
The morning mist still hung on the trees as the black SUV rolled out of the abandoned cabin. In the car, Lisa sat next to Agent Jackson Lee, the only colleague she had ever truly trusted in more than a decade in the field. Mitchell sat in the back seat, silent. His eyes were red, either from lack of sleep or from the realization for the first time that the system he had served was more corrupt than he had realized. Jackson spoke up. "Are you sure Daniels doesn't know where you're going?" Lisa nodded. "I'm sure. But I'm not sure how many people in the station knew what he did and kept quiet. The whole gang? More than one person?" Jackson stepped on the gas, his eyes serious. "Then it's time to bring everything to light." The FBI's Atlanta Regional Headquarters is located in Midtown, a fortified building with bulletproof glass, dense camera systems, and a tense silence. Lisa entered the high-security conference room. Jackson stood beside her, while a team of 3 agents from Washington were waiting. "Agent Monroe, I'm Frank Delaney, Federal Internal Affairs. Mr. Jackson has briefed me. Now I'd like to hear it from you." Lisa began to tell the story, from the traffic stop to the unjust arrest to the chase through the woods.
She left no detail out. At mention of the cabin, Delaney's eyes changed. You said Daniels was referring to a wider network.
Lisa nodded. I've been investigating a money laundering case involving a major real estate developer in Fulton County. There may be connections to the local police department, including Daniels. Delaney turned to Jackson. We need the original investigation documents. Jackson offers an encrypted USB. I have backed up all the documents Lisa sent during the investigation. She gathered a lot, but not enough to convict. Delaney mused. We need testimony. We need internal documents. We need proof that Daniels took bribes, and we need it before he knows we're digging. The next day, Lisa saw Mitchell again, this time in a small room at FBI headquarters. No longer a cell, no longer the fear in his eyes that had glinted that night. Sean, he began, her voice soft. I know why I have to go through with this. Mitchell nodded. I know, and I know I need to do the right thing. Lisa handed him a pen and a statement. I won't force you, but your statement could change the whole case. Mitchell looked down at the paper. His hands were shaking. I saw Daniels receive envelopes at the office many times. I asked, but he always said it was a local cooperation fee. I later learned it was money to ignore the investigation, to keep things quiet. Lisa nodded, placing her hand on his. If you sign, I promise, not only will I protect you, but the law will be on your side. I sign.
That afternoon, Lisa and Jackson returned to the scene, the South Ridge Police Station. No warning, no announcement. And this time, they didn't come alone. They were accompanied by 3 FBI vehicles and a search warrant signed by a federal court. Daniels was not present, but several other officers were clearly panicking. Lisa walked through the familiar hallway where she had been dragged in handcuffs. Every step today was a return to justice. Search Daniels' room first, Jackson ordered. An hour later, they found a safe under the floor of Daniels' office. Inside, more than $84,000 in cash, several unmarked envelopes, and an encrypted hard drive. Delaney from Washington smiled coldly. That's enough to prosecute. Lisa didn't smile. She looked at the empty space where Daniels had sat. No, enough to start, but not enough to finish. The news spread like wildfire. FBI agent arrested by local police for no reason, and the investigation turns upside down. Southridge PD faces wide-ranging corruption investigation. The Medal of Honor is now tarnished? Lisa sat watching the news from Jackson's office, still holding a cup of hot black coffee. You're famous, Jackson joked, but couldn't hide his worried look. Lisa nodded. Being famous is one thing, but justice doesn't come from sensationalism. We got Daniels, Jackson said after a moment of silence. He's hiding out in Tallahassee. The task force picked him up this morning.
Lisa closed her eyes. A long sigh. One man caught, one system unchanged. Jackson nodded, but we shook it. 2 weeks later, federal court in Atlanta, courtroom 3. Lisa entered as the main witness. Daniels sat beside the defendant, his face no longer arrogant, now lined with fear. Mitchell sat there too, on the side of justice. When Lisa took the stand to testify, the courtroom held its breath. She wasn't eloquent. She wasn't argumentative. She simply stated what had happened, in a calm, clear voice, as if each word were a message to every uniformed officer with a badge. I have served this country for 20 years, but I have never been so humiliated as when I was handcuffed, thrown into a cell, and threatened with death by a policeman who was supposed to uphold the law, not because I had committed a crime, but because I had come too close to the truth. The room was silent. The judge nodded. Thank you, Agent Monroe. You may sit down. Daniels bowed his head, said nothing. And Lisa knew maybe he would never truly repent, but at least he would be convicted. And she will not be silenced.
When you reach for justice, know that those who live in darkness will try to pull you back. The first hearing ended in a heavy silence. Daniels was formally charged with abuse of power, false imprisonment, and obstruction of a federal investigation. But Lisa knew this story was about more than just a name. Daniels was an extension. No one launders money and manipulates an entire police department without someone behind them. And Lisa couldn't sit still. A week after the trial ended, Lisa returned to the FBI office. In her hands was an old file, unsolved evidence from a case she had worked on 3 years earlier. B&G Property Group, a real estate development company with more than $200 million in annual revenue. But the strange thing is, not once does the CEO's name appear on official tax reports. "Are you digging up the B&G story?" Jackson asked, his eyes filled with concern. Lisa nodded. "Daniels threatened me, not because I was in the FBI, but because I almost found out about his connection to B&G. There was someone above him controlling everything." Jackson folded his arms, silent for a moment. "Do you think he's not just a bad guy, but a pawn?" Lisa replied without hesitation, not just thinking, "I'm sure." 2 days later, Lisa came to see former Judge Eleanor Hart, a retired woman who was once known for fighting corruption in Fulton County. They sat on her back porch amid the hum of ceiling fans and the smell of freshly cut grass. "I heard about Daniels," Eleanor said, her eyes sharp as razors. "But if you believe he was just a soldier, you'll have to prepare for a much bigger war." "I know," Lisa replied, "but I can't ignore it." Eleanor pulled an old envelope from her pocket, the paper yellowed. "3 years ago, someone gave me this. Inside was a list of wire transfers from B&G to a number of police officers, and there was the name Daniels, but there were 2 more names." Lisa opened the letter. As her eyes slid across the last 2 names on the list, her blood ran cold.
Deputy Mayor Conrad Mills. Sheriff Thomas Keegan. Keegan, the current sheriff of the county, who once shook Lisa's hand at a memorial service for fallen agents. Conrad Mills, the deputy mayor, who has publicly denounced racism, stood before the press and praised Lisa at an honor ceremony. Jackson wouldn't believe it, and the system probably wouldn't believe it. Lisa took a deep breath. "Eleanor, if I continue, will you help me?" The old woman nodded. "I am no longer in court, but I know someone who still has courage." Lisa and Jackson sat in front of the dashboard, a wall-mounted board filled with images, financial diagrams, red arrows, and links. Daniels received money from B&G every month. In return, he directed officers to ignore illegal construction, fill public land, and manipulate permits. But the most dangerous part was that B&G funds were laundered through charitable donations to the mayor's office. Jackson frowned. This is large-scale money laundering, but we still lack concrete financial evidence. Lisa nodded, unless someone on the inside comes forward. She picked up the phone and called Mitchell.
Mitchell sat across from her, his hands no longer shaking this time. "I saw Daniels meet a very well-dressed man in the backyard of the station. It never went inside. He drove a Mercedes, diplomatic plates." Lisa opened the book. "Do you remember the license plate number?" Mitchell nodded. That afternoon, the FBI team tracked down the license plate, which belonged to a car registered under the name Langford Holdings, an investment fund, and also the largest donor to Deputy Mayor Mills's campaign. "This is the smell of dirty money," Jackson said. Lisa frowned. "No, this is the smell of absolute power, and if I'm not careful, it will bury me alive." 3 a.m. Lisa was sleeping when the alarm rang. She jumped up, reaching for her gun. But there was no one in the house. Just on the front door, someone left a note. "Back off or lose everything." Lisa knew.
The storm had begun. The next morning, she received the news. Mitchell disappeared. No one found him at home. His car was left in the parking lot. His phone was turned off. Lisa immediately went into emergency mode. If Mitchell was arrested, or worse, all evidence and testimony would be invalid.
Jackson looked away. I think some black girl in Texas just turned on the TV, saw your picture, and believed. Tomorrow, justice could be real. Lisa nodded slightly. That's enough to keep me going. There are battles that don't need to be won. Just survive and tell the story with the truth. 8 months after Daniel's arrest, a federal court in Georgia held a formal sentencing hearing. Lisa entered the courtroom, this time not as the one being questioned, not as a lone witness, but as a living symbol of steadfastness. The bench was filled with people who had worked under Keegan. Some had kept silent out of fear, some out of respect, and some because they had benefited from it. But now the light was shining directly into those dark corners. On the defendant's bench were 3 names. Brent Daniels, a former police officer, was charged with 7 crimes, including unlawful detention and assault on a federal officer. Sheriff Thomas Keegan, police chief, faces charges of money laundering, kidnapping, abuse of power. Deputy Mayor Conrad Mills, vice mayor, was indicted for conspiracy, concealing crimes, and accepting more than $2 million in bribes. Lisa sat on the prosecutor's side, saying nothing. Her eyes were straight, unwavering, but in her heart, hundreds of memories came back. Nights spent in cold cabins in the middle of the woods, the times I trembled holding a gun in front of a shadow in the night, the moments of being handcuffed like a criminal, even though she was the one holding the badge. The news anchor once said, "Today, justice was served." But only Lisa understands, no justice comes easy. Outside the court, people gathered holding banners. Justice for Monroe. Reform the badge. We trust black women. An elderly black woman wearing a white shirt and straw hat approached as Lisa emerged from the courtroom. "You don't know who I am, child," she said, "but I have lived long enough to know what is right, and you have just taught a nation a lesson they do not want to hear." Lisa took her hand. "Thank you. You give me another reason to keep going." A month later, the verdict was announced. Daniels, 15 years in prison. In federal prison, there is no chance of parole for the first 10 years. Keegan, 30 years in prison, the highest sentence ever given to a sheriff in Georgia. Mills, 22 years in prison, confiscation of all illegal assets, and lifetime ban from participating in politics. The case is being overseen directly by the Justice Department. The FBI has launched a nationwide internal review. More than 37 other police departments have been placed under independent review. 3 months later, Lisa was nominated for the Federal Medal of Justice, an award previously given to the likes of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and John Lewis. The award ceremony was held in Washington, D.C., in a lavish ballroom filled with both high-ranking politicians and young agents hearing the name Lisa Monroe for the first time. The person who introduced her was the current FBI director. He said, "Some fight with weapons, some fight with words. But Lisa Monroe fought with dignity and courage, something no badge can give, only the heart can keep." When Lisa stepped up to the podium, the entire room stood, not for the medal, for the journey.
After the award ceremony, Lisa declined interview requests from CNN, Fox News, or the New York Times. She did not want to be a media icon. She returned to Texas, where she was born, where her mother lived in a small house in the suburbs of Dallas. That afternoon, they sat together on the porch, drinking iced tea with lemon and a few slices of mint. Her mother looked at her daughter, no longer the child who had burst into tears when her classmates teased her for having frizzy hair and dark skin, she saw before her a woman who had overthrown a system that everyone thought was untouchable. "Lisa," she said, "you did something your father never dreamed of doing. He got pulled over by the police for driving through too early, remember?" Lisa nodded. "I remember. I did the same thing. But this time, I didn't let them pass like before." That September, Lisa accepted an invitation to teach at the Federal Police Training School, where she had been a young cadet judged to be too sensitive and not suited to high pressure. In her first lecture, she looked down at the class of recruits, white, black, Latino, Asian, all of them. She said, "If you are here to wear the badge of power, you should leave the room. But if you are here for justice, remember, justice knows no skin color, no bias, no silence. And sometimes it requires you to stand up, even when everyone else stands still." The room was silent. Then applause.
The following year, the U.S. Congress passed a law called Lisa Monroe Federal Integrity Act. Requires mandatory independent oversight of all arrests involving federal agents being restrained by local officers. The law bears her name. But Lisa wasn't proud of her name. She was proud of the thousands like her, people who were arrested, insulted, humiliated, but no one turned back to ask, what really happened? Now there will be a system that forces you to ask. One morning, Lisa was walking in the park near her house. A black girl, about 9 years old, was riding her bike by. When she saw Lisa, she stopped. "Are you Miss Monroe?" Lisa smiled. "I'm Lisa. What's your name?" "I'm Kayla. You're the one who got the bad cop arrested, right?" Lisa nodded. "You're not fighting the police. You're fighting evil. And evil wears many uniforms." The little girl thought for a moment, then said softly, "When I grow up, I want to be like you." Lisa put her hand on her shoulder. "So, let's start now, Kayla, by always asking, is this true?" That night, Lisa returned home, sat alone on the sofa, and turned on the television. No news, no trial, just an oldie show, the country song she used to listen to with her father. The music plays, "I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free." Lisa closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she felt truly free, not because of the badge, but because she hadn't bowed her head. Have you ever wondered, what would happen if we kept silent when we witnessed wrongs?
Through the story of the agent Lisa Monroe, we learn something invaluable. Justice doesn't come by itself. It takes someone to stand up, even if they are knocked down, even if they are betrayed, even if the whole system turns its back on them. Lisa is not a superhero. She is a black woman, unjustly arrested, mentally tortured, but she made a choice, not silent. And thanks to that, she dragged the whole system to bow to the truth. What do you think when you hear this? If it were you, would you dare to stand up like Lisa? What did you learn from this journey? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If this story touches you, click like. And if you believe there are people out there who need a little more hope, please do share this video. Don't forget subscribe channel so you don't miss out on heart-touching stories of justice. Because, in America, the truth should never be buried.